Hello and welcome. I am your host, Tennille Christensen from Earth Mama, where I teach people to get skilled in sustainability. This is the Permaculture Herbalism segment brought to you by the Elder Tree, where we are putting the medicine in the hands of people. Thank you for tuning in. I'm recording from my studio in Jabukai land of Cran, Australia. And I'm going to give my respects today and always to the First Nations people, past, present and future, and offer my gratitude for the opportunities to learn their ancient wisdom in our modern world, bridging time and culture so we may all thrive. This segment is all about merging the world of permaculture and herbalism, so the art and science of ecological design and plant wisdom or plant medicine so that we can cultivate healthy landscapes and people. If you want to be involved, you can be part of the Elder Tree Trove, which is our Patreon community. Stay tuned to this episode for more information, and without further ado, let's get into the interview.
If we would open our ears, what would we hear?
You could go to anybody's house and when they're at dinner and sit down with them and eat their dinner, and they would have to welcome you. That's the culture.
Yes.
So there's no such thing as starvation. There was no street kids, only fake ones to get the aid money, but because of course the kids could go to any mum and dad and they would take them in.
Yeah.
Their culture is all inclusive, right?
Yeah.
Share economy.
Steve Cran is a Permaculture Aid veteran, a teacher and social activist, well known for skilling up and empowering green warriors. He's been assisting these people living on the edge of survival to rebuild their communities and has developed projects in war, post-disaster and poverty zones in some of the most difficult areas around the world. For the past 30 years, he's been a climate change resilience specialist, so he's a pretty handy guy to have around after a natural disaster. We met recently at the Cairns Eco Fiesta, and he's now moving to our FNQ region. So I thought it'd be a great opportunity to listen into his insight around the difference between conventional aid and aid dependency, and his work and stories that he shares around permaculture aid and how it creates self-sufficiency and earth repair simultaneously. There is a warning here. There's some swear words, and it's also a passionate conversation. So I hope you enjoy and get to learn a little bit about the places and the people that Steve has worked with and how permaculture has its proven worth. It's so wonderful to hear that you're up here in the Far North Queensland region after all your travel around the world and the property that you're on down south. So please share with our listeners today what you've been doing in the world of aid work, what you've got coming up, and specifically right now, why has permaculture played a big role in your life, or what does it mean to you?
All right, well, I started permaculture back in 1990. Did my first PDC with Rob and Francis in Brisbane back then, and it was like was 5 weekends or something like that we did. Maybe it was 6 weekends. Anyway, by the middle of it, I already had my permaculture business going, and I created a business called New Planet Permaculture Services. So I went around. This is in 1990. Went around Brisbane doing backyard permaculture because I thought that there'd be a lot of poor people that'd be interested in growing food, and but the reality was that only the wealthy people were interested in growing food, and the poor people wanted to emulate the rich people. So they wanted to get a lawn and maybe some Greek columns, fake Greek columns out the front of the house, where the wealthy people said, yeah, let's get an investment back on my garden, I want to eat out of my garden, and I'm paying all this money for my landscaping and stuff. I wanted to give me something back. So for several years I did that, and my projects got bigger and bigger and bigger, and I even ended up doing a housing estate where we built a snack track through this housing estate and planted all fruit trees along there. And the idea was that, it would create community because it takes several people to pick fruit. Someone climbs a tree and the other people down the bottom catching the fruit that's falling.
Yeah.
And it sounded a bit like a paradise. Imagine living in a place where there's fruit trees with a landscape.
That. Snack track. Everyone needs
snack track,
yeah.
And actually I used the snack track later on in Aboriginal communities to boost their health, It's always more fun for kids to steal the fruit than it is to go and buy it, right? So they eat more fruit when they steal it.
Yeah.
Anyway, not that Aboriginal people steal, but as a kid, that was my thing too.
Glumping or glamping. Yeah. What do you call it? Scrumping when you go and...
Scrumping. Or gleaning or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, one day Bill Mollison rang. I did a park in Brisbane called Tom Wallace Park.
Okay.
And it was just a fluke that I happened working at an edible landscapes nursery, and the mayor of Redcliffe rang up, and he accidentally they'd cut down all these fig trees on the foreshore of Redcliffe, and that night all the bats came in. Instead, there was no fig tree, so they ate the residents' fruit. And all the residents rang up the council and said, "Hey, all the bats ate my fruit because you cut the trees down." So he said, "Oh, sorry about that. I'll come up with a solution." So he wanted to give them free fruit trees. And I said, "No, man, that won't work. Why don't you do a permaculture park?" And he goes, "What's that?" It's a park like the Garden of Eden, So anyway, he went for it, and I ended up building it with the Lions Club. And Bill read, some newspaper guy came along. I was even on TV, I think. And they were making fun of me on the TV because the plants are only this high.
Oh, of course, it's still going to grow.
Anyway, Bill got me down there, and the second time I met him on my course, but we started talking about 4:00 in the afternoon, and talking. I look out the window, and it's dawn. The guy, I went off on this journey with Bill, and we just talked all night. And I'm a guy that goes to bed at 8 p.m. Anyway, so he was impressed that he liked my volition to get something like that through. Anyway, a year or two later, he got me to do this permaculture project in Wilcannia. It's an Aboriginal town, 200 kilometres east of Broken Hill.
Okay.
And so it's in the desert. It's on the Murray-Darling River. Murray-Darling River used to be a massive river, so big that it has a bridge that goes up and down to let the steamers through, right?
Yeah.
And Wilcannia was the biggest inland port in Australia.
Okay.
But when I got there, it was a dry gulch.
Wow.
The dribble come through, and there's beautiful sandstone buildings in there. But most of the white people are gone, and the black fellas are living in it, and it was all smashed up, and there's rubbish everywhere, and people are drinking in the streets, and the cops are driving around. And the reason I got the job was because the police had a big riot with the Aboriginals, and the Aboriginals chased them into this into their fort. They have an actual mud fort, and the news just happened. The media just happened to be there, which stirred up the blackfellas. And anyway, it was an ongoing battle over Christmas, and all the media showed up, and then it looked like Wilcannia was like World War III going on.
Whoa.
Anyway, so they had a big meeting with the town, and they said, basically, if you don't tell us what you want, we're going to shut the town down. We're going to close it down. I don't know if that's possible, but anyway, some black fellow had done a permaculture course, and he goes, "We want permaculture. We want to be self-sufficient. We don't want your dole money and all that shit."
Yeah.
And so the government guys looking at each other, "What the fuck is permaculture?" So they rang the Permaculture Institute, and Bill nominated me for the job. And years later, I asked him, what did you send me down there for, man? I only had like 3 years of permaculture experience. He said, "Well, you're the only guy I could think of that might survive that place. Because these are the most violent Aborigines in Australia. They were the most violent Aborigines that other Aborigines were afraid of. Because they had 1,600 kilometres of river, the strongest people held the best territory in those days, right? So years later, the bloodline's still there. They're still tough buggers, The only place I ever saw 2 4-year-olds shaping up and boxing each other and literally, busting each other in the nose and stuff like professionals. But anyway, when I got there, I looked around the town, and I remember standing in front of the pub, and there was all these blood and teeth on the ground in front of the pub, and I was like, "Holy shit, these black fellas really hammer each other, eh?" Anyway, I got a meeting with them, and lucky for me, the guy from the CDP just died the day before.
What's the CDP?
Community Development Employment Program.
Right.
So it's like work for the dole.
Okay.
So before white fellas had it, black fellas had it, right?
Right.
Because there's nothing to do out there. So they basically did just a very basic maintenance of their town.
Okay.
Anyway, I got them all together, and I said, geez, your town's a bit of a dump. When are you guys leaving? And they go, "We're not leaving, this is our land." I said, "Oh yeah? Why don't you fix the place up?" And they go, "Wow, we've got no skills, we've got no money." I said, "All right, I'll tell you what, I'll teach you the skills if you want." "But what about all the materials?" And I said, "Well, steal all that." And they're like, "Yeah." So
Renegade.
I used to be a naughty boy at school, right? And I recognised the energy out of these guys. So we just ran on naughty boy, naughty girl energy. And we took over a piece of land in town, and everybody backed off and let us have it. It was the old gas station, and we turned it into a permaculture park. We had we did some gardens at the schools, and there was like 8 warring factions in the town, right? I mean, when I say warring, they killed each other, and there was all kinds of violence and stuff. But what I did was I got all the warring factions to work on the same project, whether it be the school or the park or the old people's home. And over the 2.5 years, all the violence dropped away. Until one day the patrol commander came and visited me at home, which was like, what have I done now? He goes, yeah, I know you don't like talking to the police, mate, but I want to tell you something. You dropped the crime rate. He said 70%. So I rang up my TAFE boss, and I told him. He goes, bullshit. Don't be ringing me of that bullshit unless you got some proof. I said, where do I get proof from? He said, go up the courthouse. So I went up the courthouse and came back. It was 90%.
Wow. So you were there for 2.5 years?
Yeah, 2.25 years.
Okay, 2.25. And you're teaching skills in the gardens, or you're doing
everything hands-on, right?
Cool.
Very first day I worked, we got built a stage in the middle of this park we're building, the permaculture park, and we got these old sandstone blocks from these demolished houses, and we built the stage, right? And then that night, it's hot desert, so I went out. I was going to go and water the concrete to keep it cool, and there's all these blokes walking around, these families walking around. I was like, what the hell are we doing here? And this bloke going, see that, mum? He's got his mum with him. See that stone there, mum? That's the one I put in.
Amazing.
And I was like, wow, these guys have never actually built anything in their life. They've only destroyed things. So I realised that this, it was a positive thing.
Yeah.
And about halfway through the project, and one time another guy came to me and goes, guess what happened, Steve? I said, what? Last night, you know what happened? No, what? I said, I forgot to drink. Got up this morning, mate. My fucking beer's still in the fridge.
Wow, times are changing.
And then I realised, just keep them busy, and also they're tired.
Yeah.
They go home, they're so happy with their work that they forgot they had a problem that they had to drink to cover the problem up, right? So that just increased, right? And so the end result was not a 90% drop in the crime. You can imagine how much money that saved the government, because not only the stop the adults going to jail, but also a lot of the kids. And back then, the kids were like 3 times the price of an adult to keep in a detention facility. But after the project, I went off to my next project, which was at Harvey Bay, another Aboriginal project. There was not a peep from anything from the government, right, of the New South Wales government. And so I rang up my old boss one day and I said, hey, how come there's nobody wants to know how we solved this problem with Aborigines? And he goes, well, you just ruined an industry. There's a whole industry runs on the back of blackfella problems. That they got their per diems, they got their 4-wheel drive, they got their big pay packets, and they all look like they're helping the poor blackfellas, but they just live off that problem. And you come along and sorted the problem out. And in fact, you gave them a whole new way to do it. And I said, oh. And he said, also, you don't even have any credentials that we recognise. I said, oh, well, anyway, so then I realised that the whole world runs off problem. The people in charge of the problems are actually living off the problems. Of course they don't want solutions. So a voice in my head said, think like a pirate, act like a warrior. So I realised that, to make permaculture work in these situations, you've really got to bullshit your way in and create Trojan horse projects where they think this is going to happen, but you add all these extras to it, And everybody benefits from permaculture. Your diet is better. You got your body's stronger because you're digging and carrying things. Your imagination starts to go wild. You got your feet in nature. You're breathing good air. You can turn any shithole into a paradise. Now you got the toolbox, So then I when 1999 came along, East Timor went off, and it was my 40th birthday, and I was living out in the forest at the back of Mullumbimby, and my phone rang, and this guy said, we want to go to East Timor. And so the next thing you know, I was on my way to East Timor, and I was only supposed to go for a couple of weeks. I ended up staying there for 5 years. And the very first month I was there, man, it was like a weird adventure movie. I had a price on my head. The militia chased me and my mate Ego around, and the people were in such bad condition. The house, everything was burnt down. So they're starting from ground zero, and there was that kind of, they've already been in a war for 28 years or whatever. You could feel people who've been in a war for a long time. They've lost a lot of their culture. They're suspicious. They can go to violence very quickly. All those kind of things, and there's all these different weird peoples in East Timor and all these different influences. And then you had the UN come in, Australian Army held it first, and then the UN came in, and the UN was just like the worst bureaucracy you could imagine. I always used to wonder why people shoot up the UN and try to kill UN people. After a while, I wanted to be one.
Wow.
And I worked for them. They were pretty bad. And I could tell you some funny stories, but we don't have enough time. But 5 years in East Timor with the poorest people in the world, they taught me a lot, right?
Yeah.
They are super good hackers. They can hack all kinds of stuff, On the very first few weeks I was there, this guy came up from Delhi. My project was about 4 hours motorcycle ride through rough territory to get to my project. And when he got there, he said, I got this motorcycle. I've never ridden a motorcycle before, but I borrowed it, and I'm up here. Anyway, he's a medic, and he gave me some of his medicine. Then he went to drive off, and he fell over and fell in a money drain and broke his leg. And there was no electricity, and we didn't have any torches for some reason. I think I'd lent them out, and they hadn't come back. So this Timorese guy, it's all right, I'll get some coconuts. And he scrapes the coconuts and sticks them in a rag, and he twists the rag really hard and gets the oil out of it. And he puts the oil in a Coke bottle, puts a string in there, lights it on fire, and I had a big smoky flame. And then we got some bamboo, and we strapped up his leg, and we got some dudes to take him back to Delhi in some tricycle or some kind of motorcycle contraption. But and if they ever cut themselves, there's no such thing as a band-aid. They didn't even know what a band-aid was. They would wrap banana leaf around it, which seemed to work. And any problem they had, there was always something around, and so I learned a lot of them, right. And they learned a lot of me from. I had just better systems, and they had no idea about fertilizer. They had no idea about organics. So what I did was I said to them, all right. We got these bloody rats in the rice fields eating the rice, and the UN's offering them all these chemicals. I said, okay, go and ask your grandparents if anybody's got any grandparents, because old people die faster in war. But some of them had grandparents. Go and ask your grandparents how they used to sort out the rats. When they come back the next day, they said, oh, they got an itchy bean. So they get this bean they pick on a vine. It's got little hairs on it, and they call it itchy bean. So they get this itchy bean, they smash it up, and they put it all through the rice paddy. So when the rats come into the rice paddy, it makes them super itchy, and they bugger off.
Wow.
So it worked.
Amazing.
And then I said, okay, well, how do your grandparents get rid of the African snail? Because these big snails about the size of a golf ball. They use spit betel nut juice on it, and they're all chewing betel nuts. So I got the ladies to spit in a bucket, mix up water. We made borders around the gardens, and the snails couldn't get in. So.
Wow.
Out of all this type of research on every course, a guy Lachlan McKenzie came to East Timor, and he got the job of writing a manual.
Yes.
So I said, okay, you come with me for 5 PDCs, and we'll get all these elders to give us their information. So the Permaculture Guidebook for East Timor is made up of these elders' methods. It's their traditional culture, because they've been living there for so gazillion generations. Yeah. And they had a way to do everything, right? And so when
much more wisdom than the UN. Just bring in some chemicals and.
So 5 years later, the tsunami hits. I just got back to Australia. I've been doing 5 years in Timor. I said, I had my kid with me there. He was quite young at the time. And then the tsunami hits, and the next thing I get a job in setting up a permaculture school in Aceh. So I had all this interesting Timorese knowledge, which also can translate to there. Yeah. And tsunami erased the land. I mean, there was nothing left, right? So we're starting from definite ground zero. But a lot of what I learned in that place, I could transfer to Aceh. Then I used the same system in Aceh, but there wasn't a lot of old people left. But we got some of their stuff as well. Yeah. And so I realized everywhere I go, I'm a teacher, but also a student. Yeah. And if I can cross-pollinate these different cultures, there's no limit to it, really.
So much transference of information and similar climate, so the application
and also that hacking ability that poor people come up with, because they don't know the things that we've got. Yeah. I felt sorry for a lot of people because they didn't even know they were poor until we showed up.
Wow. Yeah.
Anyway.
Mindset.
I did 1 year in Aceh, set that school up, and then I had to go back because my kid was about 7 by then. No, maybe 6 or 7. Anyway, I had to spend a couple of years with him there. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, out of the blue, this dude rings me that saw me in Aceh. He was running some UN agency, and he said, "Oh, I'm working up at in Uganda, on the top of Uganda, a place called Karamoja, and we got this bad problem up here called cattle wars. Everybody's got an AK-47, and they shoot each other up for in 1,000-man groups called the Warriors. They go and they shoot each other's villages up and steal their cattle, because if you want to get married, you need 100 cows.
Wow.
So, yeah, there's a whole bunch of things to that culture as well. But so they said, "Oh, we want you to come over here. I'm hiring you because I saw that what you did in Aceh after you left. The people continued to do it.
Yeah.
Normally, our projects they stop as
Fall
soon as you stop the money.
Yeah.
So for first couple of months, I had to drive through the war zone and try and find the warriors to interview and work out what was going on. And one day, and it was like throwing the dice every day. You know, these warriors didn't get what they wanted, they'd set an ambush and shoot anybody in the road just to get their blood lust out. You know.
Yeah.
And when I went back into the city, into Kampala, the UN wouldn't believe me that I was leaving, even though they were hiring me through an agency. They wouldn't believe that I was living in that place. They said, "There's no white people out there." I said, "Yeah, there is. I'm living it. There's a couple others too, you know." Anyway, so one day after 2 months of going through I had two interpreters. One guy's mother was like a witch doctor, and so she would throw the bones and say, "Oh yeah, you can go this way," or "Don't go that way." And then I had another guy. He was in with the tribe, so we sort of work out where the warriors are operating and try to get around them. But I thought to myself one day, you know, this is we're throwing the dice here every day.
Yeah.
The day that I'm unlucky, it's going to be real bad. You know, it's not going to be just a scratch, and I'm more worried about my guys. So we go off on this journey. We go to this town called Moroto, and there's this giant prison at Moroto. And I said, "Oh shit, what the hell's that?" And he said, "Oh, that's the biggest prison in Uganda." I said, "Oh yeah, who's in there?" "Oh, the warriors are in there." I said, "Really? I mean, you mean some of the leaders?" Yeah, everybody, a whole bunch of them. The military catch them and they put them in there. So I said, "Oh, let's go down there." So I'll go to this prison. I'm thinking, "Oh man, wonder what's going to be behind the door." The last thing I heard reading about Uganda prison was that Idi Amin had these dudes killing each other with hammers and stuff like that, right? So I went in there. The gate was wide open. The guard was sitting in the dust with his barrel face down in the dirt, so he wasn't real happy. It wasn't really knowledgeable about his weapon. And then I went into the prison and met the warden, or the chief guy. What do they call him? I can't remember the name. Anyway, and he was a pretty jovial guy. And I said, "Look, you know, I want to talk to these warriors, but could I train them in permaculture? Because I noticed you guys don't have much food." He goes, "Man, if you can grow food in this prison, you can do anything." So I said, "Okay, I'm going to get you seeds and tools." So I had a meeting with the warriors, and there was about 95 of them in the prison of 1,100. And he said, I told him, "Look, I want to have a talk to you guys about developing a new kind of warrior, the green warrior." And
so this is how the green warrior
the green
was
warrior
born.
came up, right? So.
Wow.
But my interpreter, he was a cheeky bastard, he said, "Oh yeah, there's many I didn't know what he was saying.
Oh.
There's green warriors out there fixing Uganda. They don't use the gun anymore. They've picked up the hoe. They fix up their kraals. They do their villages. They grow their own food. The green warriors are quite fat, you know, which is like in Africa, you have to be pretty good to be fat, right?" So come back the next week, and he didn't tell me what he said, right? So we come back the next week with all these tools and seeds, and I sourced non-hybrid open pollinated seeds from Kenya. It's actually illegal to farm in Uganda with hybrids, with anything but hybrid seeds.
It's legal?
Illegal.
It's illegal
to farm with non-hybrid open pollinated seeds.
What?
Yeah. In fact, the second part of my project was getting these farms going, and the UN jacked up and said, "No, you got to use the hybrid." I said, "No."
Wow.
So we just changed the name to Home Gardens. So we had 2 hectare home gardens.
Wow. Okay, love
anyway, so in the prison, got all the warriors together, and I trained them up in permaculture and everything, and then they loved it, you know, and they said, "Oh yeah, we've heard about the warriors. They're all over the place." I said, "What?" And then the interpreter said to me, "I'm sorry, Steve. I told them a lie last time." So they put it out through the prison network, and somehow it created a legend. and they believed that there already was these green warriors out there doing all this cool stuff, right? So anyway, I said to the warden, can I have some of these guys don't look very dangerous to me. Can I have some of them, can I take some out of here, you know? He said, oh, you can have, I'll give you 5 of them. And you can take that guy, Charles. I said, oh, Charles, isn't he a mass murderer? Yeah, he's killed 13 people, yeah. But I think he's done enough time. So I went up to Charles and I said, Charles, he seems like a reasonably intelligent guy. I said, do you ever feel bad about those people you killed? He said, oh, man, I feel bad every day for all the bad things I did. Because I was drunk, man. They used to kill them for the money to drink more beer. I said, okay, well, the warden said you can come out with me. I'll make you a teacher, and then you can redeem yourself. He goes, oh, please, man, could you do that? Yeah, okay. Anyway, several months later, you know, I trained him up, and wherever we went with Charles, we got really good results. Charles was a great teacher, and I was thinking to myself, is he a good teacher because he's a good teacher, or is it just because he's a mass killer? Everybody does exactly what he says. I thought, it doesn't matter. We're getting the results. And he had like 13 kids or something anyway, and I really do believe he was in prison long enough to change his ways. Yeah. And anyway, we ended up teaching 220 villages how to grow food. Wow. Because one of the problems was the UN had been giving them food for 40 years, and they'd forgotten how to farm.
Lost their
and they used that time and energy that they would be using farming to take up the gun and shoot each other up and create the cattle wars, right? So I used to be a joke like, so this is an aid project to get over aid, is that right? And my boss would go, yeah, I'm afraid so. Anyway, after a year, the World Food Program called me in and said, you know, we're cancelling the project. And I said, oh, what's that? And they said, well, you know why. I said, yeah, what if I solved all the poverty? And they said, exactly, man, you can see where you're going. We never thought you'd get this far, but thanks for your good work, goodbye. You know, they're pretty blunt, man, and they got skyscrapers in Kampala. These are aid organisers. They're not leaving. And there's a whole ugly network of corruption that goes with aid food. You can imagine where it's gone in 40 years. So anyway, that was my introduction to Africa. And next year I went to Ethiopia just to do a 1-month course. I mean, I just loved Uganda, man. The Ugandans were like strong, happy people. You know, I met this chief one day. He was 7'2". His head was almost half the size of my body, and I had to stand on a mound to talk to him. And he had a voice like, you know, Jabba the Hutt, really deep, you know. Yeah. And I just said to him, "Wow, you're the chief, eh? Why are you the chief?" And he laughed. Oh, who else would be chief? that's a meritocracy, right?
Yeah.
The biggest guy. I'm the chief because I can eat you all. Anyway, but when I got to Ethiopia, it was a whole different kettle of fish because Ethiopia's had so many wars that it's actually killed off so many people that you have this kind of people left over that they don't want to take any risks or they haven't got much initiative, you know, and so it's much more difficult to train them. But it really taught me about, you know, DNA and bloodlines and all that. You need your spicy, intelligent rebel people because they keep the system rolling, right? And anyway, then I came back, and then so that was that. Then I was sick. You know, I'd taken these drugs in Uganda for typhoid. I had brain malaria and typhoid the same time, and also on my last day there, I was vomiting and shitting blood on the floor of the hotel room.
Really? Well.
My boss was like, "Get the hell out of town!" My UN boss, "Get out of here before I don't want to fill in that paperwork for you." You know. Yeah. So I went and stayed a year in Bali to recover. Yeah. And then I got a job in Hong Kong. Someone wanted me to come. Hong Kong's got 250 islands, and I was thinking, yeah, okay, I'll come and run a PDC for you. So I went to Hong Kong, ran the PDC, and I thought, you know what, I'd like to have a crack at urban permaculture. I'm sure I could change the city, and I imagined all the skyscrapers with vertical forests going down the sides of them, and you know, birds and butterflies and everything in there, and rooftop gardens and ponds, and you know, I just downloaded in me what a city could really be. Yeah. But I wasn't really prepared for the rules and regulations and the gatekeepers, and you know, people just don't want things to change because they're on a safe bet. And I got a rooftop garden on one of the big universities there, which is pretty funny because I had to go to make things happen. I actually had to have a piece of land on another island, and where these there was a horse equestrian place, and I got they had tons and tons of horse shit. So I composted up several tons of horse shit. Then I bagged it, put it in a van, drove it into the city, got it into the pulled up outside the university, put it on a big trolley, pushed it into the elevator, and Hong Kong people don't like the smell of anything but air. And these guys are coming along, they're looking at their phone while they're walking into the elevator, and then the door closes, and they're like, what the hell? And they're in this, they can smell it, and there's a big pile of shit in all these bags, and they're almost vomiting. And I had to do this about 8 or 9 times. It was like a comedy. I wished I would have filmed it. It was so funny, Anyway, we built the rooftop garden, and most of the students helping me, they'd never seen live vegetables before.
Wow.
And then the day that our vegetable gardens were ready, we said, I'm going to bring up a big bowl, and you get some balsamic vinegar, you get some this, that, and that. We brought it all together. We picked all the vegetables and had this big salad. Like so proud of our garden. And there's all these security cameras, right? Next thing you know, bang, the door kicks open. This little fat security guard comes running out. You cannot eat here. You have to go to cafeteria. And I went, fuck off. Okay, you trouble, I get help. And he runs back down. Quick, eat your salad. We ate it. Got the bowls, all disappeared. By the time his mates come up, we were all gone. And that's just some
bureaucracy.
Bureaucracy. That is just some of the weird things that happened in that city. But you'll never get cities to change unless you pull the plug on them. I mean, Hong Kong at that time produced 2% of its food, if I even believe that, right? And I'm sure over COVID they felt the pain. But there's a lot more permaculture going on in Hong Kong now. And we helped create the Perma Club. We had this permaculture site. It's only about, a quarter of an acre. But a lot of Hong Kong people, it was a dirt track to get down it. A lot of Hong Kong people have never walked on anything but concrete, and they would ring us up. We're talking people in their early 30s. I have to send a team of guys to go and carry them down the dirt path to the site. They'd never walk. They can't do it.
Wow, they're tripping over their own feet.
They just can't.
They
couldn't get
coordination.
They couldn't. Their mind was like something's wrong. They'd never been on unstable ground, right?
Wow.
Which it was a little bit steep, but nothing that you couldn't run down really. Anyway, but they loved it. We had a pizza oven down there. We grew all this food, and to them it was like a chunk of Bali in the middle of their city.
Yeah.
And we did that for I did it in Hong Kong for 2 years, and then the typhoon hit the Philippines, Typhoon Yolanda, and it was the biggest typhoon in Philippines history, which is saying something because they always get.
It's a regular thing, yeah.
Yeah, so it blew out took out a third of the Philippines. We're talking 200 kilometre winds, right?
What year was this?
2013, I think it was.
Okay.
So some Hong Kong guy rang me up and said, I want you to go to the Philippines and help the Filipino people. I said, what do you want me to do? And they said, well, you know what to do. And so they gave me some money. Went over, not a lot of money, so I took a team over. We did a recon, and the weird thing was, been in lots of disasters before that, but there was no aid on the road. There was no trucks full of stuff. Or what they did, they created an area of three miles across in Leyte, and all the aid was funneled to one place so they could steal it, right? And there was no aid. I think the place I worked, we saw the first aid come in 6 months later, in the form of some roofing tin from the Red Cross, right? So it was the first time I was like, wow, man, that they just really stole all that money and goodwill. But anyway, I found this village that had fixed itself without any aid. And I said, oh, this is pretty cool what you've done. Then I found out there's a system in the Philippine culture when a disaster hits, the village goes into this, I can't remember the word, it's like, I can't remember the word. Anyway, they call it a system, and everybody agrees. They fix the old people's houses and the single mums first, and then they go up. So everybody works in teams to fix. So teams go out and cut the bamboo, teams go and get the thatching, and in a very short time, everybody's got a shelter, and they're back in business. Plus, they cut all the trees that are over the roads and all that sort of stuff. Right?
Interesting. So because they're used to dealing with these,
they have a proper system that's got 1,000 generations of standard operating procedures built into their culture. Yeah. Right. I saw it in action. I said,
and this is the first place out of everywhere you've gone in terms of supporting permaculture aid projects that this system, culture has a way of.
Yes, it was the first culture I'd come across that did that.
Okay.
And I was impressed. So I said, "Oh, who's the chief?" And the chief cool guy called Tonton. He's only 28 years old. And normally the chief's much older, but this guy was really smart. And his English wasn't good. He could understand English, couldn't speak much, because they have to do their high school in English in the Philippines. So he said, I want to do a permaculture school in your area because you guys are smart, you know. It's good to start in the best area, not the worst area when it comes to intelligence. So he said, I know a family that will give you a farm. So he introduced me to this lady, Lucy Juanitas, and her family agreed for me to use that farm. We built our permaculture school there. I didn't have any money. The money that guy gave me ran out pretty quick, and then there was a giant earthquake somewhere, and aids are pretty fickle. They only want to be seen at the cold face of the worst disaster, and as soon as another one comes up, they shift all their money and resources somewhere else. So I was left high and dry, and I remember standing in the middle of this crappy rice field, and all the leaves had gone off the tree. It was super hot. There was no shade. And I felt the weight of responsibility come down on me. I said, I've already promised that I'd help these people, but now I can't. Yeah. And a voice said, you can do permaculture.
Yeah.
And so I thought, okay. And so I think I had $1,000 a month stipend from my business partner in Hong Kong, Sasha. He's a really good guy. So he said, I'll pay for another 4 months and then we're done. I said, okay. So with this money, I built my first structure, and then I held a PDC, and the PDC built the first gardens, and the first piggery, and the first chicken system, and then we did a second PDC, and then, so I've been there for 10 years. And it was going really well up until COVID, and COVID really sort of caved us in financially, and then because there was no more travel, no more students.
Yes.
I couldn't even travel.
Yeah.
And the other problem was that straight after, we were almost going to trying to get it going again after COVID, when I could finally travel because I'm unvaccinated.
Yeah.
Then the African swine flu came, and because we made our money out of pigs, out of organic free-range pigs, we couldn't even move. We couldn't even move within 1 kilometre of our farm with any pig meat. So and it wasn't our pigs that were dying; it was the big, fat, white pigs that run on antibiotics. Those
sick pigs.
Commercial sick pigs that are kept in a concrete coffin for their whole life. The reason I did a piggery was because I've never seen pigs treated so badly.
Wow.
I actually saw pigs with tear tracks.
Wow.
And I had a psychic moment where the pig's consciousness went into my brain, and I realised what a sad life it had.
Yeah.
And how sad it was. And then you're actually eating sad meat.
Yeah.
So this other voice in my head said,
show a better way.
Happy meat is yummy meat. So, with the first piggery we made, so I'm using these free-range native pigs. First piggery we did out of earth bags and made all the troughs and everything, and the pigs got in there and ate all the concrete off and ate the earth bags, ate the plastic, ate everything.
Whoa!
I thought, whoa, man.
Hungry pigs.
They're pretty, so then the pigs were teaching us a lesson, right? So then I had to make really, the thickest part of the bamboo at the base is super chunky and woody. We had to make all the fence posts out of that.
Okay.
And we made them a big swimming pool, and we got it right in the end. We were running up to 200 pigs, and Lucy is a really good farmer, and so everything I was going to do, she brought back her traditional knowledge.
Yeah.
Her father, who was dead for several years, he was the gun farmer in the area. He was the best farmer in the area and very respected. And that area had been through a war, and her father had fed everybody.
Amazing,
So
a lot of respect
she
there.
She wanted to bring his energy into permaculture. So even today, our farm's still there and going. We do organic rice, organic pigs, organic fruit, vegetables, and we do a nutrition pizza for the locals because they're dying of lack of nutrition. And then we also do permaculture training, and we do sort of like permaculture farm stay.
Yep.
I only want people coming and staying with me who want to learn permaculture. Yes. I don't want tourists.
Absolutely.
Tourists
they're staying for the experience to learn. Yeah.
So that's what we've been doing. So recently we shut it all down because over COVID, 1 million virtual permaculture schools came up on the net. And everybody started doing virtual courses, and people were saying, "Well, why should I pay for one of your courses when I can get one off the internet for $50?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, have you had a virtual meal before or a virtual massage? It's not real."
Yeah.
Oh yes, I do. But okay, man. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do farm to plate cafe, which we're already in progress. We already got the food growing, and then we're going to do training on farmers so the farmers can build their own farm to plate cafe. Because I think food has become so toxic and so lack of nutrient now that you can't go and buy what you want in the supermarket. Even here in Australia, everything's contaminated. In the Philippines, it's 10 times worse. So who's going to save us? The farmer. Yeah. So you want something to eat? Go to the cafe on everybody's farm. Yeah. And so they'll all start competing. First they'll just do the basics, but then they'll get a bit gourmet, and you'll have the pizza farm, you'll have the Italian food farm or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, the creativity is there.
I love when people compete creatively, right? Because it's different when they compete monetarily. That's just capitalism, but the creative.
They find their niche.
They start to grow, and everybody cross pollinates their ideas and stuff like that. So quite creative people.
Yeah, well, it's creating food providence for the region.
And I think the same is going to happen in Australia. I mean,
we're having these conversations here in North Queensland as well.
Well, you look around, you walk through any shopping centre, or even if you go to a school, everybody's fat, or a lot of people are fat, or they're crook, because the lack of nutrition. So
they're starving.
Socrates has said that let your food be your medicine and your medicine be your food.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. I've fixed so many people's problems with good food.
Yeah.
Nutrition, right? And the other weird thing was we were taught when we were kids that there's a food pyramid and you have to have 3 solid meals a day. That was the lie. The lie is you only need 2 meals a day, because you shouldn't eat another meal until you fully digested the first meal. So by piling 3 meals on top of each other, you're creating
fermentation and you're slowing down your digestion.
And everybody's body swells up and inflammation, all that sort of stuff, right? Yeah. So when I was a kid at school back in the 60s, there was no fat kids. We all ran to school in bare feet. Our food was pretty clean. There wasn't any junk food back then. I think the only food you could buy, foreign food, was Chinese food, like fried rice and stuff like that. But mainly, people didn't go out to restaurants. Not in North Queensland. I used to live in Innisfail as a kid, right?
Okay, you grew up in Innisfail.
And my dad was a chemical salesman for sugarcane chemicals.
Wow.
So maybe I'm paying back his sins. So it's really simple to solve a lot of the problems of the world.
Yeah.
We really just have to wrestle the world off the corporation, off the corporate governments. The government, to me, should be sacked immediately. All governments, forget governments. All they do is get us into wars. They allow the corporations to do what they want, and they do psychological operations on us through deceit to get us to take on all these stupid things, right? Like the COVID was a good example. Oh, 1 minute we had everybody, they had so many flu cases a year. Next minute there was no flu at all, it's gone. And now there's a thing called COVID, which seemed to have similar numbers. All they did was remarket the flu as COVID and trick people into taking an injection that definitely was not a medicine. It was a killer shot, right? So
and it didn't stop. It didn't stop the thing they said that.
That's right. And then you got Bill Gates for years and years saying we've got to reduce the population, and suddenly he's in charge of the vaccine. I'm like, hang on, man. Yeah. And what makes me laugh is that people watch all these detective shows on TV like CSR and all that, and look, that pubic hair from 1978 means that you did this bad thing to this person and blah, blah, blah. And look at all the clues. Yeah, and I can work out who did that. And we play, Cluedo and all, but we can't see right in front of our face. There's this in-your-face thriller going on right now, and you're part of it. And it's a murder thriller, and it's murdering lots of people. So the food's been murdering people. The vaccination and the other vaccinations were definitely murdering people. And I don't care if anybody cancels me for saying all this shit, because if you're cancelling me, you're probably one of those people going to die anyway. And you know what that voice said to me one day? That stupid must die. I was on a project at Arche, and these people went and rebuilt right on the beach. I was trying to convince them, hey man, we've just got a tsunami. Don't be building back on the beach.
Yeah.
They went, oh no, the imam told us we have to build here because this is God's will. And I thought, then the voice in my head said, the stupid must die. I was like, oh yeah, I get it. So the survival of the fittest is actually the stupid must die, right? So now, here we are now, and permaculture has become a really good toolbox for building our future, right? We can see the old world dying in front of us, and we can see the people who are pulling the strings. You don't want to trust them anymore. We've got to make our own our own world, you know?
Yeah.
And we can.
And we've got the skills, we can do that transference, learn from people.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
And according to the government, 100% of the government is vaccinated, so they won't be around much longer to get in our way.
All right, so you've done heaps of work around the world with permaculture. You've done heaps of aid work. You've set up heaps of gardens. You've dealt with the government in many ways that a lot of people haven't, so you've got that insight. This topic is around permaculture herbalism. So obviously you've worked with a lot of plants. What do you think, I know it's hard to kind of bring it down to one, but in your experience, what plant has really been, a warrior plant? That's
okay,
really
so in my work, it's been aid work, and I've been saved many times by herbal remedies from village people, right? From malaria to infections and so forth. But one of the things you find when things get tight, like when people are stressed and they're afraid, is the gut problems and skin problems, right? So one of my favorite ones is guava. The guava leaf, the small green tips coming out of the guava, you just boil them up. Not too many, you can make it too strong, but it creates an antibiotic, right? So you can drink that, and that'll cure most gut problems from dysentery, maybe typhoid. I didn't try it on my typhoid, but by that time I had typhoid, I couldn't even walk, so I was pretty buggered. But also you can wash wounds with it, and if you want to make a super duper one, use the guava leaves in conjunction with the young avocado leaves. Oh. So young avocado leaves and young guava leaves have similar properties. Okay. But guava will grow anywhere. It'll grow desert. It'll grow swamp. It's a food.
Very high.
If you have a wound, you can boil up the guava and wash your wound with that strong tea.
So it's like an antibacterial.
Yeah, and I use it on animals.
Okay.
So sometimes the animals are fight because we have wounds, and I can use that on them.
Yeah.
The guava. And when I was in Uganda, our whole compound came down with some kind of dysentery, and half the compound took Lomitol or some other anti-gut problem drug.
Okay. Pharmaceutical.
Yeah, pharmaceuticals.
Okay.
And the other half took my tea that I made, and we were all better within a few hours. And they had dragged on for days and days, and they're doubling the dose and tripling the doses, and finally they just crawled, "Please, Steve, can we have some of your tea?" And in the end, we cured everybody with the same tea.
And this is guava tea.
Guava tea.
Any of the guavas, just the little green shoots.
Well, ones that are the bush guava, the one that you see the birds drop everywhere. It's kind of like Mother Nature gives you your remedy wherever you go.
Yep.
So wherever I go in the third world, the most common problems, they'll always have the plant nearby to solve those problems. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there, would they?
Yeah.
The people would be dead.
Yeah.
So, that guava is one of my go-tos. Because I think, with diarrhea, especially for children, you can shit yourself to death.
Yes.
Little kids will dehydrate very quickly, and these drugs aren't available everywhere. And what if in the future we don't have a pharmacy anymore? What if we have a supply chain problem or a transport problem with no fuel? So what are you going to do? You go out and get your guava. So you got that covers skin problems and gut problems, and if you can't go and grow a guava, there's something wrong. Even the most black-thumbed person could grow a guava, right?
I mean, you don't even have to grow it. You can just go out and find one growing somewhere already.
Yeah, and the weird thing was in Uganda, I said, "Oh man, I got this dysentery. You don't have any guava trees around here?" And they said, "Oh yeah, man, I'll take you to the guava." So we get in this ute and we go to this house, and there's a guava tree at the front. And I go into the guava tree, and there's all these white things fly out. You know what they were? White bats. Oh. I didn't know that Africa has white bats.
Interesting.
So the black people have got white bats, and the white people have got black bats.
Ah, wow.
Yeah, I've never seen a white bat before. It freaked me. What the hell is that? What am I looking at?
Yeah.
It had the sound of a bat.
Yeah.
My brain was going, "No, that's not a bat. It's a bird." Oh, but it sounds like a bat. It is. It's hanging upside down. It's a freaking white bat.
So you've seen some really amazing things in your time.
Yeah, well, they don't teach. National Geographic magazines don't tell you everything, right?
Yeah, you got to go out and experience it.
Yeah. So the other thing is you should work out yourself. Give me what's the 12 most needed herbs that I need for where I live. So your problems will be endemic to your area. So
Fungal
what do you need
issues here for sure.
like,
Fungal.
okay, say for example, I was the same when I was down in Mullumbimby, we had 2 floods and everybody had fungus in their throat. So you need something that's going to clean your lungs out and make you spit out all that.
Yeah.
You might need depends. You have to work it out yourself.
Well, interestingly, here in the tropics, a lot of people get parasites, and
Wormwood.
a lot of our wormwood's great, but we have a lot of and it gets really hot in summer. We have a lot of plants that have mucilage in it that are really cooling and anti-inflammatory in your body.
Like Malabar spinach, cucumber.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's once you start looking into that, you're actually becoming your own doctor. And then when you realise that most of our pharmaceuticals have side effects, as long as you know the dosages and what to do, Mother Nature doesn't have side effects. Because Mother Nature doesn't make money off the next pill you got to buy to cure the side effect, does it?
I think the worst could happen is that you take a little bit too much and you get the runs, but you have that direct feedback and your body tells you have less of this. It's not.
So my advice to people is, learn the herb and the herb law that goes with it.
Yeah.
Because some herbs will kill you, right? Salt will kill you if you take too much of it, right?
Yes.
There's dosage is the thing.
Yeah.
And the preparation and all that sort of stuff, So your food is actually the best herb. Your fresh vegetables grown in nutrient-rich soils. So a lot of our soils are poor. You can add seaweed or sea minerals or rock dust and all that sort of stuff. So the more you pump up that soil, the more you're pumping it into your health.
Yeah.
So you won't even need a lot of medicines if you're eating well.
Yeah.
You have to eliminate processed foods completely because the corporations that run processed food are the same corporations that run the medicine. So it's in their interest to slow kill you, right? And so it's legal apparently in the world to slowly kill someone, but not rapidly kill someone. So your food is your medicine is your food, and you can have your own vegetable garden, and then your neighbour's got a vegetable garden. I remember when I first started working in Brisbane, in Barden, in the area where all the old Queenslanders still were and everything. There's all these gates in every fence. And I was talking to this old lady, she said, back in the old days, we used to have our veggie gardens, and you could go through the gates and go to anybody's vegetable garden, just tell them what you took, and then you'd owe them one, and they'd come and get some, I'm making a souffle, I need this, or making a pumpkin pie, and I need some pumpkins. So everybody came to visit everybody, right?
Yeah.
Now we're all on our gadgets, we can visit someone on their Facebook or something like that, right?
Electric gates where you don't have to get out of your car to open the door.
Security cameras. And in West Timor, they've got this thing where if you're so hungry, you have to eat your neighbour's garden. You put this mask on, right? They've got a mask hanging on the wall, and when you put the mask on, you walk next door. If the neighbour looks out and sees you in the garden with that mask on, in their culture, they're not allowed to see you, so you're invisible. Because it's a shame. You're so shamed that you couldn't even grow enough food. So the shame mask makes you invisible in their culture. Of course they can see you.
Yeah.
But they can't say to you, hey, you just took my bloody best eggplant, you bastard.
Right.
No, you don't even know. You don't know who did that. You might say, somebody took my eggplant, but you know who did it. But because they wore the mask. So that's a cultural way of making sure nobody starves.
Yeah.
And the other cool thing I thought was in Timor was that if you could go to anybody's house and when they're at dinner and sit down with them and eat their dinner, and they would have to welcome you. That's their culture.
Yes.
So there's no such thing as starvation. There was no street kids, only fake ones to get the aid money, but because of course the kids could go to any mum and dad and they would take them in.
Yeah.
Their culture is all inclusive, right?
Yeah.
Share economy.
Yeah.
And then now we impose the greed economy on them, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of our problems. We've got to get rid of the greed economy, and we've got to start sharing. So when you grow your food, you can survive, but if everybody grows their food, you can thrive, right?
Yes.
And you can help each other. Way more fun than sitting there watching a movie. You can be your own movie. You can have a great comedy, or you can have a adventure movie. You can do things together and have so much fun that you wouldn't even want to look at your gadget anymore.
Yeah. The reality show.
That's it. Reality show.
Awesome. Well, I love all the insight that you've shared. It's really great to hear about permaculture from an aid perspective. What's alive and thriving in your world right now?
Well, the reason I'm back in Australia is because I see my country needs aid.
Yeah.
Right? It's much more difficult in this country because people they're under the spell of a psychological operation. You know, they're tricked all the time, but they're tricked all the time by the same guys. It's like, dude,
you think you're thriving in a rat race, or
the government is lying to you all the time, or mixing truth and lies, and you're still not waking up. You know, look at fluoride, right? Now you get a teaspoon of fluoride and drop it on the cement floor, and it'll burn a hole through the cement. And you're going, yeah, we're going to put that in your water, and it's going to make your teeth all strong. Well, actually, it's a brain poison. It'll poison your brain and drop your IQ. So if you've dropped your IQ, you're probably going to fall for the next trick they're going to give you, right? And we've seen all these things like 9/11 and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I know I sound like a tinfoil hatter, but I tell you what, everybody's starting to wonder what was going on in COVID, and we're starting to see the casualties mount up now, right? So we're in a war. We're in a psychological war. We don't even know we're in a war, but look at the casualty list, and it's the bad food, the bad injections, the bad medicine, the bad lifestyles, and the mental strain on people, because they're not in a human-friendly system. They're in this thing that's going to cull us, right? So I'm here to fight this war as well, and I'm going to fight it with intelligence and positivism. And I don't care if you call me a tinfoil hatter. The stupid will die, and the ones that are left over will be the ones to bridge us to the next world. So I really want to create the new world ahead of us. I want to help people coalesce into tribes and communities, and we won't even need the governments at all, honestly. They've done, their day is done. They're old-fashioned, man. They're like the steam engine. They're gone.
Yeah.
So we can reorganize ourselves. What humans might need on a country scale is a bit of administration, but we don't need somebody telling us in every sector of our life how to do things. You know, and we're starting to see even our children now are at risk from going to school. I can see all these kids. I never heard of a mentally ill kid when I was a kid. There was not one kid that we would say that kid was crazy. Now it's like, you know, Johnny, have you had your drugs? We weren't allowed to take drugs at school. Now it's like, have you taken your drugs? You got ADHD? You have some speed or some whatever drug they're giving them, right? I know some of these kids are going to sell their drugs to get other drugs. So it's a crazy world, but there are a group of people who are unstoppable. They will, no matter what, grow their own food, work together, form the bridge to the next world, and in the next world, the paradise where we live in harmony with nature. We get the best out of each other. We honor each other's individuality and for our skills and what God's gifts gave us, not turning us all into normal sheep.
Yeah.
And and the government will be a funny story about the past.
I love it. And so you've got a PDC up in North Queensland at the end of this year.
So I got this really cool place to do a farm, myself and Riley and this Riley Hickson and another guy, Steve Hart from New Zealand. He's an architect. So we're going to focus on all the things you need to do now, how to form your own community, how to grow food, how to grow animals, all the best practices, right? So this is not just something I made up in my head. This is from my own experience, because a lot of times I'll have to go overseas and I'll go to a place like Archie, there's nothing left, and just to pull the refugees together, help them build their shelters, help them grow their food, you know. And one thing I always do is I create a meritocracy. So a meritocracy is a form of governance where you're the boss of what you're good at. And if you're not good at anything, then you follow somebody who's good at something until you learn those skills, and one day you'll be the boss, right? So the best electrician is in charge of electricity, the best plumber is in charge of plumbing, the best chef is in charge of cooking. So it's a really cool world where everybody's strong in what they do, right? And you can learn from any of these people. So that's what I'll be teaching on this course, right? We're all scared of each other because we've had so many mentally ill people and so many people with programs, you know. Programming is one of the things they've been doing to us since we're born. I mean, we listen to the radio program, the TV program, the educational program, right? You don't realize that in your mind is a mental structure given to you by an external force that may be against who you really are. You know, I myself went through it. I was a soldier for 10 years in the infantry, and you know, I was an infantry soldier, so I was there for combat and all that. But at a certain point, I realized that the enemy guys, the bad guys, thought I was the bad guy, and I thought he was the bad guy. And someone set a game up where two
innocent people
who
with
actually
good
have
intentions,
similar skills, think each other's evil.
Yeah.
And they're not.
Yeah.
And then it just downloaded in me, hang on, this is a game to keep the bankers rich.
Yeah.
And look at all the good people in the world that have died to keep bankers rich. Holy shit. Now, after that, my heart wasn't in it. So after 10 years, I just had to pull the pin. And I knew that my warrior skills, I changed from a psycho warrior to a green warrior, right?
Yeah.
So a warrior can still be brave, but you don't have to kill anybody, right? And you can dodge and weave through dangerous places. You're still brave, you're still a warrior, and you get things done.
Yep.
So I use my warriorhood now to help Mother Earth and to help the human race. So I hope one day that we'll have permaculture schools, boarding schools, or some schools where you go to permaculture school and you become a green warrior, and everybody in your village is got a warrior heart. That's what I'd love to see.
That's a beautiful vision, and that's something like I just went to Mexico for an Acapulco, and it was a lot of people having these conversations that we've talked about, not the aid, but just the issues of the world and what's going down. And so I just love we know what the problems are. Some people are awake to it, some people are still waking up, but then it's like, what are the solutions? We've got permaculture as a toolkit, a toolbox. Everyone, you said before, some people might, revel in having a permaculture garden and all of these things, but some people are scared of bugs. It's just not their dream, but they can bring their skill set and what they're passionate about using permaculture, and we all play our part.
And they're all going to discover their inner warrior,
yeah,
right? And a lot of people intuit things, Sometimes we find out things because someone's got an idea. Well, the great thing about permaculture, we go, yeah, let's do it. In today's world, people go, you can't do that, you haven't got insurance for that, or there's always some bullshit rule that keeps you back in the box.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is the people now are waiting for the people that caused all these problems, the government, to come up with a solution.
Yeah.
And I go, oh man, it's just like the sheep getting run by the wolves, isn't it?
Yes, so now it's time to get grounded and learn practical skills. So do you want to talk a little bit about the design course you just did before, but you've got what some of the activities you're doing?
So the design course is 2 weeks live-in.
Yep.
So we've got a really nice farm to do it on.
Yep.
And it's I've got the world's oldest rainforest on the border of the farm, or part of the farm.
Yep.
And a big waterfall, and just amazing,
Pristine.
Adam and Eve type place. It's up high on the tableland, so it's got it's cool and beautiful place, and the soil's that beautiful red soil. So we're going to build some. We start off on the second day. We're going to be building a garden straight away. We're building bamboo fencing. We're going to do some chicken systems. We're going to do everything's hands-on. So 50% of what we do is hands-on, and then we go in the classroom and do a bit of classroom work. And so you learn faster when you do hands-on.
For sure.
And actually, you can go home and say, "Hey, man, look at my report card. I did well this, and this, and this." Nobody ever fails a permaculture course. It's just that we give them a lot of best practices, and this is so the hands-on shows you the best practices that actually work, and then you can go home to where you are, and you might have some of those resources, or you might make a hybrid of it or whatever. But you know what to do. If you're doing a classroom course or a virtual course, you've got a lot of data coming in, but you really don't know how to apply it. It's like if I told you how to dance and you went to the dance competition, you really wouldn't do a good job, Or if you read a lot of Bruce Lee books, you're not going to go in MMA and beat the guy, right? So you got to get the hands dirty. And I always say permaculture is an action word.
Yes. Yes.
And so for all those action people, yeah. But if you're someone's a couch potato and never wants to get out of the couch and just absorb information, go and do it virtually and save me the grief of having to push you through permaculture.
All right, cool. So it's on in September from the 8th to the 22nd. And how can they... Okay, we're going to put the show notes. We're going to put the link in the show notes.
That's right. And also, I think by that time, we'll actually have an after-course 1 week somewhere up in the tablelands where we'll get some practical... If you want to spend longer just doing some more practice, we'll have a very cheap, simple way for you to do that as well.
Awesome.
Right? What I'm after is people who take that permaculture, go home and do it, and everybody around them goes, "Wow, where'd you learn all that?" And they go, "I learned it at this place," so everybody's coming back for the next one.
That's so amazing. That's right. Well, Riley came to our PDC, so it's so awesome to 5 years down the track,
cross-pollination, we call it. Yeah.
and see a student come and now.
And while he's got his
you.
own
Nursery.
fruit tree nursery, so he's a good guy to know. And I really want to help these younger new guys take it on. And next year I'm going to be doing 10-week permaculture field leaders courses for people who really want to be an action trainer.
Amazing.
Not people who just want to go in a classroom. People who, so my people will be able to, after I train them, they'll be able to go to any town in Australia.
Yeah.
If there's an emergency, we go dark, organise the town, get them to grow their food, get their power systems, their waste systems, get them all permacultured.
Yeah.
So that town can be a self-sufficient unit themselves. That's the future, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. So you're kind of training action permaculture aid workers in a way, but
I've done it in other countries.
Yeah,
and
so now it's time to do it here.
People from I've trained, a lot of them are doing really well.
Yeah,
they're now Ego in East Timor. He's got permaculture as a main subject in primary school and secondary school.
Incredible.
So you do reading, writing, arithmetic, and permaculture.
Awesome.
Right?
Yes.
And same with several other places I've worked. But back in Australia, it's kind of different. You have narcissism and all sorts of weird stuff going on. And crazy dudes that put a lot of stuff on the internet. When you go to their place, they're actually, it's not real.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful of the internet now. It's very illusionary.
Yeah.
It is the brain of the world. Yeah. And the brain has a lot of
different
things it needs to sort out.
Yeah.
So you got to learn how to read things properly, and you can't even trust comments now. Even films can be made by AI. So go to the real school, take your shoes off, get in the real soil, get your hands dirty, eat the good food that grew on that farm.
Yeah.
If that school can grow the food that you're eating for that course, big thumbs up. That's the one you want to go to.
For sure.
Yeah. I've been to some PDCs where they served me some frozen quiche they got from Woolies.
Yeah.
And I go, no. Our one in the Philippines, we do pork, organic pork, organic bacon. We do fish, tilapia fish. We do vegetables. Everything you eat on the farm is from that school. Everything you eat at school is from the farm.
Yeah.
So it's real life, Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to learn how to build a house? You want to learn to be a carpenter, build a house.
Yeah.
And the second house you build will be better than the first, and so forth.
Sure.
Right? So.
And from one garden to the next. That's what I say to people, even if you're renting, you just got to start gardens now. Everyone is an experience.
We'll be doing covering that on the course, because you can do wicking beds. Yeah. And my favourite one for renters is barrel gardens. So you get 200-litre drums, cut them up like a strawberry plant and pull all the metal out. Yeah. And you can 4 of them will feed a family of 4. Yeah. They look like big green afros after a few weeks.
Yeah.
They grow very well, depending on what you put in the drum.
Yes.
But also pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals now are going to be exposed for what they really are. So we have to learn how to grow our medicines and what they do. So part of our new food garden is medicinal.
Yep.
And the other thing we have to learn is how to grow an all-weather garden. So you need to be, especially in North Queensland, you have to grow a garden that can survive a cyclone. Yeah. So you have to be able to put up some structures that can handle high winds, and part of your garden must be bulletproof, so that after the cyclone, you're still eating from your garden. Your animals are still alive. Yeah. You're still alive, and so forth. So you have to put those systems in place, and I have lots of them that are proven in the field.
Amazing. Cool. I want to come to your PDC now.
You're welcome to.
Thanks. All right. Well, thanks so much for your time today, Steve. Anything you want to say before we sign off?
Just start imagining the future that you want. And anybody that goes against it, just keep going around them and keep going for what you want. And coalesce with the people that vibe on your vibration. The vibe of the tribe now is what you need.
Yep. Amazing. Love it. All right. Thanks heaps.
No worries.
Well, that's a wrap for this episode. If you enjoyed it, please share it now with someone you know will benefit from this information. And remember, we're not just talking about change, we are cultivating it. Through these conversations and through the Elder Tree Patreon community, together we are sowing the seeds for an education centre and healing sanctuary. You can unlock access to our treasure trove of wisdom via our Patreon, so you can do that in the show notes below or from our website. Please subscribe now and leave us a review. It really helps the bots share our podcast with the world, and your support ensures that this podcast and our vision can thrive. To grow them is to know them them is to use them is to love them, and then happily herbs become your way of life. May you be blessed with good health and many plans.